Policy and inflation or fiscal policy and monetary policy. Monetary policy managed by RBI regulate money supply, interest rate, control inflation and stabilize the economy. Inflation targeting. RBI aims for a specific inflation rate, currently 4%. Maintain price stability. Fiscal policy. Government uses tax policy and spending to influence economic control inflation and foster economic growth. Monetary policy and monetary policy committee. Monetary policy is strategy by RBI. अंडर RBI एक्ट 1934 मैनेज करता है मनी सप्लाई एंड क्रेडिट यूजिंग इंस्ट्रूमेंट लाइक इंटरेस्ट रेट, लिक्विडिटी मेजर टू अचीव माइक्रो इकोनॉमिक गोल. एक्सपेंशनरी मॉनेटरी पॉलिसी और कॉन्ट्रैक्शनरी. एक्सपेंशनरी को डोबिस और हॉकिस. इंक्रीज मनी सप्लाई टू फ्यूल इकोनॉमिक ग्रोथ. कट रेपो रेट, बैंक रेट, SLR, ISM इंजेक्ट लिक्विडिटी. अडॉप्ट ड्यूरिंग इकोनॉमिक स्लोडाउन और रिसेशन, ग्लोबल फाइनेंशियल क्राइसिस 2008. और कॉन्ट्रैक्शनरी में डिक्रीज मनी सप्लाई टू कंट्रोल इन्फ्लेशन. रेज रेपो रेट, बैंक रेट, SLR, MSF एब्जॉर्ब लिक्विडिटी. adopted during overheating economy with high inflation. RBI rate hike during post COVID-19 inflationary phase. MPC established section 45ZB of RBI Act 1934 amended in 2016. Set policy repo rate, guide monetary policy to achieve price stability, bill for fostering growth. 6-member RBI representative, 3 governor chairperson, deputy governor monetary policy, 1 officer, government nominee, 3 expert in economic related field nominated by central government. Voting majority vote, each other has 1 vote. Governor has casting vote in case of tie. Meeting at least 4 times a year or as required. Tenure nominee 4 years or until further notice. Inflation target 4% प्लस माइनस 2% रेंज 2 से 6 तक. फिक्स बाय गवर्नमेंट इन कंसल्टेशन विथ RBI. लीगल फ्रेमवर्क डिसीजन बेस्ड ऑन RBI Act 1934. पब्लिक कम्युनिकेशन. RBI पब्लिश MPC resolution with rational minute released with 14 days lag. Accountability. RBI must explain any failure to meet inflation target to government and suggest correction measure. MPC failure condition. Inflation outside 2 से 6 बैंड for consecutive quarter, 3 cycle of failure. RBI must submit report to government. Inflation targeting. Flexible inflation targeting adopted since 2016. Proposed by Urjit Patel Committee report 13/14. Implemented by amending RBI Act section 45ZB. Monetary policy stances. Accommodative. RBI reduce policy rate to increase money supply when economy is slowing down. Lower interest rate promote borrowing and spending, stimulating economic activity. Neutral. RBI maintain flexibility in adjusting policy rate depending on economic condition. RBI either raise or lower rate aiming to stabilize inflation and growth. Hawkish. RBI increase policy rate or keep unchanged to address concern about rising inflation. High help contain inflation but can reduce economic activity in short term. Instrument of monetary policy. Repo rate, rate at which RBI lend bank under LAF against collateral of government. Inject liquidity. Reverse repo rate, rate at which RBI borrow from bank under LAF against eligible government security. Absorb liquidity. MSF marginal standing penal rate. Bank borrow overnight from RBI by dipping into SLR portfolio up to 8% of NDTL. Safety valve for unanticipated liquid shock. MSF rate 25 basis point above policy repo rate. SDF standing deposit facility, rate at which RBI accept uncollateralized deposit overnight from all LAF participate. LAF corridor. Upper bound ceiling MSF rate. Middle policy repo rate. Low bound SDF rate. Bank rate. Minimum rate at which RBI lends to bank without collateral. CRR, average daily balance a bank must maintain with RBI as percent of NDTL as on last Friday, second preceding fortnight. SLR, percent of NDTL that each bank must maintain in India's liquid asset. Maintained. OMO, RBI buys and sells government bond in open market to regulate money supply. RBI buying bond, money supply increases. RBI selling bond, money supply decreases. Two types: outright OMO, permanent; repo OMO, repurchase agreement, temporary. Market stabilization scheme absorb excess liquidity by issuing government security, treasury bill, or dated security. Fund raised held with RBI effectively reduce money supply used during period of surplus liquidity. Operation twist: RBI sells short-term government security and use fund to buy long-term government security. Sterilización: RBI manage impact of forex intervention on domestic money supply via MSS forex swap. When rupee depreciate, RBI sell dollar to stabilize. When rupee appreciate, RBI buy dollar. Qualitative tool: direct credit of specific marginal requirement. Bank must maintain a margin between market value of collateral and loan amount. RBI increase margin to restrict credit flow, decrease margin during expansionary, encourage credit. Selective credit control: RBI के पास एबिलिटी होता है इन्फ्लुएंस करने का क्रेडिट फ्लो टू स्पेसिफिक सेक्टर. Can encourage credit to priority sector, agriculture, infrastructure. No coercive moral suasion: RBI governor persuade bank to transmit repo rate, cut to lending rate, open branch in rural area, lend to priority sector beyond government securities, bank lending rate, policy transmission. Government securities G sectorable instrument issued by central or state government. Treasury bill, short term GSEC, original maturity less than 1 year, no issued by state government, not issued by government bond. Dated security, long term GSEC, maturity more than 1 year, issued by both state or central government. Bank lending rate benchmark till 2010 BPLR benchmark primary lending rate, internal benchmark 2010 से 16 बेस रेट, 16 से 16 onward MCLR marginal cost of fund and best lending rate, 19 onward EBLR external benchmark lending rate. Transmission channel of monetary policy, interest rate channel, monetary easing, reduce cost capital, boost करेगा इन्वेस्टमेंट एंड कंजप्शन, टाइटनिंग रेज रेट, रिड्यूस डिमांड एंड इन्फ्लेशन. एक्सचेंज रेट चैनल, लो करेगा इंटरेस्ट रेट, करेंसी को डिप्रिसिएट, इम्प्रूव करेगा एक्सपोर्ट को, रेज कॉस्ट ऑफ इम्पोर्ट. क्रेडिट चैनल, एक्सपेंशनरी पॉलिसी, इंक्रीज करेगा बैंक लेंडिंग, रेज इन्वेस्टमेंट एंड आउट. एसेट प्राइस चैनल, लोअर रेट करेगा, बूस्ट एसेट प्राइस, इनहेंस हाउस होल्ड, इनकरेजिंग कंजप्शन एंड इन्वेस्टमेंट इन हाउसिंग. एक्सपेक्टेशन चैनल, क्लियर इन्फ्लेशन, टारगेट बाय सेंट्रल बैंक, एंकर इन्फ्लेशन. अनकन्वेंशनल मॉनेटरी पॉलिसी टूल, जीरो इंटरेस्ट रेट पॉलिसी, NIRP, नेगेटिव इंटरेस्ट रेट पॉलिसी. हेलीकॉप्टर मनी, गवर्नमेंट डायरेक्टली इंक्रीज मनी सप्लाई टू बूस्ट इकोनॉमिक डिमांड. इन्फ्लेशन टाइप, कॉस्ट टर्मिनोलॉजी. Inflation, general rise in price of goods service over time, reduce purchasing power of money, remeasured by MOSPI, Ministry of Statistics and Program Implementation. Demand pull, demand excess supply, cause expansionary policy, fiscal stimulus, rupee depreciation, lower interest rate, government spending surge, increase aggregate demand, price rise, cost push, rise in production cost, pass to the consumer, cause higher wage, rising raw material price, supply chain, oil price spike, raises transportation cost, good become costlier, monetary inflation, excessive excessive increase in money supply by central bank, creation of new money to finance budget deficit is most inflationary. Excessive money printing led to higher demand and price rise, supply chain disruption, natural disaster, global crisis, reduced supply, COVID-19 pandemic disrupted global supply chain, shortage, price hike, imported inflation, currency depreciation makes import costlier, rupee depreciation makes crude oil import expensive, creeping inflation once a four, slow and gradual, manageable, typically not concern for policymaker. Working those thus start to worry central bank signal overheating economy level at which central bank begin raising rate. Running inflation thus is hurt economic growth, business raise price, consumer real income shrink, urgent step needed, galloping inflation 20,000 rapid severely disrupt economy led to loss of confidence in currency, vicious cycle of raising price and hyperinflation above 1,000 extreme and uncontrolled lead to currency collapse. Example Germany, Zimbabwe, Venezuela. Key term skewflation, skewed rise in price of certain items while others remain unchanged. Seasonal rise in onion price due to poor harvest while other food prices stay stable. Stagflation, inflation occurred alongside a stagnant economy, high unemployment and slow growth. Inflation rise but job growth and GDP growth stall in some recession period. Disinflation, reduction in rate of inflation, price is still rising but more slowly. Inflation rate drop arts short. This is disinflation, not deflation. Deflation, general decline in price level, often reduce money supply credit. Significant fall in consumer price leads to lower wage and reduced spending. Reflation, stimulating economy after contraction via higher government spending or tax cut. Government increase करेगा restart growth after recession. Depression, prolonged downturn, high unemployment, low demand, reduced industrial production lasting several years. Great Depression 29 से 39. Inflationary gap, actual GDP exceed potential GDP. Inflationary actual minus potential. Aggregate demand exceed economic production capacity. Deflationary gap, demand falls short for economic potential output. Reduced price, economic stagnation. Opposite of inflationary bottlenecks are fall in supply of good will demand remain unchanged. Price spike, shortage of essential goods due to disrupted supply chain. Inflation tax, inflation act as hidden tax. Inflation premium, borrower benefit, real interest rate is lower, create bonus for loan taker. Inflation spiral, wage price, rising wage lead to higher price, lead to demand for even higher wage. Co-wave phenomena, price fluctuation for agriculture product, high price cause overproduction next season, lead to price drop by underproduction the following season. Overheating, aggregate demand grow faster than productive capacity. High inflation, asset price bubble, liquidity trap, interest rate near zero. Full employment, all available resources used efficiently. Inflation indices, price indicator, what it measures is GDP deflator, Average price change of all goods and services in GDP. Price level of basket purchased by representative consumer. Price change at wholesale. Average change in selling price received by domestic producer. All goods and service produced domestically includes imported goods consumed domestically. Base year dynamic changes with GDP calculation. 2011-12 not yet fully adopted. Released by GDP data MOSPI, NSO MOSPI, DPIIT, Ministry of Commerce. Not yet officially adopted in India. Key difference: does not include imported good, include imported good constant weight, wholesale price only, no service, multiple counting bias, superior GDP deflated, includes service, eliminate double counting, exclude indirect tax. Headline message: core or core inflation. Headline inflation: overall inflation including all goods, service like food, energy provides snapshot of price trend but volatile may not reflect long-term inflation trend. Core inflation exclude volatile item like good and energy. Defined core inflation introduced in economy survey. Exclude volatile item like fuel. Core inflation exclude not just food and energy but also item like transport and communication. Phillips curve: inverse relationship between unemployment or inflation. Base effect: previous year price level influence current inflation calculation. Inflation was low in base year. A smaller increase in price can show a higher inflation rate for current year. Climate inflation nexus. Economic survey 24-25. Primary driver of endemic food inflation. Rising temperature now have a strong correlation with food prices spike than even rainfall or reservoir level. Consumer: reduced purchasing power, higher cost of living negative. Creditor lender: lost purchasing power on lent money negative. Debtor: reduce real burden of debt due to inflation positive. Investor: short-term gain due to price mixed. Wage earner: unorganized sector don't keep up with inflation negative. Savers: reduce value of saving negative. Taxpayer: higher tax burden bracket creep, raising indirect tax negative. Exchange rate depreciation of domestic currency mix. Trade balance short-term improvement may worsen long-term due to import dependency mix. Employment short-term boost, long-term dependent of economic policy mix. Public moral decrease, moral due to inequality and economic uncertainty negative. Measure of combat inflation: monetary policy increase bank rate, make borrowing costly, reduce credit creation. Increase interest rate, reduce spending, reduce demand for money, increase saving. Open market control liquidity in economy, increase repo rate, CRR, SLR. Reduce inflationary pressure by tightening money supply. Increase in tax, reduce consumer demand, slowing inflation. Reduce government spending, control inflation by reducing aggregate demand. Broaden tax coverage. Help manage inflation by increasing government revenue. Other major price control: short-term relief may distort market. Import control: reduce inflationary pressure from import. Administrative: export prohibition on cereals, increase domestic supply, reduce price. Administrative: subsidize sale of cereals and pulse onion, direct price control for consumer. Administrative: reduction of import duty on pulses, edible oil, increase supply of essential good. Bharat brand subsidize essential food. Purchase rice 29 60 55 30. Bharat dal for मूंग 7 93 for मूंग साबुत. Government budgeting बाद में